Okay, year 10, we've got another maths video. This time we're looking at surface area of composite shapes. Now this is basically as hard as it gets. We're combining composite areas that we did not too long ago. We're combining surface area. We've really got to break it down into easier steps to be able to do these questions, because as a whole, they're kind of complicated. So the trick with maths, when you've got a complicated question, is always break it down into simple steps. Okay? Now, whenever we have a surface area and we want to calculate that surface area, we need to draw that shape as a net first. So that is the first challenge we need to do, is draw as a net. So I'm going to write this down as like the steps. Draw as a net. So that's what you want to do first with any surface area problem. Now, I always like to include the bottom shape. Now here, the tricky thing is we can't see all the shapes. It's a solid shape. We've got a particular view. We need to be able to imagine all of the other shapes that we are faces that we can't see. So there's going to be a sort of hidden face on the bottom here. There's got to be a hidden face like that, and then a face like that as well. So it's going to be quite tricky to make sure that we include all the faces. So you need to take your time when you draw the net to make sure you haven't forgotten any faces. Don't rush this part because it's very easy to forget a face. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is that bottom one. I always like to start on the bottom. It's just a rectangle. Easy enough. And then each time you draw a face, write in the dimensions. So that's 8 and that's 10 for that bottom rectangle. Okay, again, you can't see that back corner, but you know that there is a rectangle there. Okay, now I'm going to include these front and back faces. Now these are composite shapes, these front and back shapes. So it's sort of a rectangle with a triangle on top, like that. And that is the front and back face. I've then got these two side faces, which I needed to include. Now, I should add my dimensions, sorry, to my, these ones here. That's 6. And then we know that this is 7, and we know that this length here is 5.7. Okay. It's the same for the other one. We don't have to draw the dimensions everywhere. So we've got to do these side rectangles now. And they are the same. And they have the height of 6. And then the last two faces that I need to include are these roof ones. So they're going to be here as well. And they have a length of 7. And then you're just going to make sure, if I fold that net up, is it going to make that solid shape? Okay, fold the front and back up, fold the sides, and then close the top. It works. So don't forget any faces when you're drawing your net. Okay, I then need to match the common faces as they'll have the same dimensions. So this middle one on the bottom is unique. We'll call it A1. We're going to call these two faces here A2. Okay, then we're going to call these side ones A3. And then these ones A4. Okay, so we're just matching the ones that have the same dimensions before we do anything. So draw as a net, and I should say with dimensions. And then the next thing is what I just did. We want to match common, or a better word is probably identical. Identical faces. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do is write out an equation. So write an equation. We just want to say that the surface area is going to equal all of these faces added together. So I'm going to make sure I get the right amount of each face. It's going to be A1 plus 2A2, because we've got 2 of those, plus 2A3 plus 2A4. Okay, so again, if we break this up into simple steps, it's not too hard. This might be sounding complicated, but we can draw nets, we can match identical faces, we can write equations. So none of these individual steps are too hard. We just need to go through it one by one, be patient with our problem solving. We can't rush to the answer for these questions, unfortunately. Okay, and then now we can substitute. Okay, so only once you've written this equation that you can then add in the substitution values. So surface area for A1 is going to be 8 times 10. Okay, now for A2, this is going to be tricky. I'm going to write 2 times, and I'm going to go brackets around the whole thing because A2 is a composite shape. We need to make sure we do it correctly. Okay, so the composite shape is a rectangle and a triangle. So the rectangle part is 6 by 8. And then the triangle part is going to be half. So we're going to go plus the triangle. It's going to be half the base, which is 8, and the height, which is 5.7. Okay, so you see how I've done that? I've broken up this shape, or these shapes, into the rectangle component, 8 times 6, plus half the base, 8 times the height, 5.7. That's the triangle bit on top. And I've got 2 of that. So I need to make sure I put brackets around it because it's a composite shape. You don't forget to multiply all of that by 2. Okay, then I go plus, and we've got 2 of A3. Now the dimensions of A3 are just 6 times 10, which is not too bad. And then plus A4, which is 7 times 10. But we've got 2 of those. So 2 times 7 times 10. Okay, so we substituted into our equation that we had made with all of the dimensions that we need. Then we calculate. Okay, so I can put this all in my calculator and then check I've written it in correctly as I've written it. So 2 times bracket 6 times 8 plus a half times 8 times 5.7, close brackets, plus 2 times 6 times 10, make sure that's 10, not 20, plus 2 times 7 times 10. Again, you can now go through and check. So 2 times 7 times 10, plus, make sure the pluses are in the right place, 2 times 6 times 10, have I put that incorrectly? 6 times 8 plus half times 8 times 5.7. And there's 2 of those, 8 times 10. Okay, I've added it in my calculator correct. I can press equals. And there is my surface area. Surface area equals 481.6. What are our dimensions? Centimeters squared. Oh, okay, we did it. So that's one question. And that was a lot of steps, a lot of work, okay? Break it up into small, simple steps. Now, you don't have to write one draw net to match when you do your working, but you do need to follow those steps. So you do need to draw the net with dimensions. You do need to match identical faces. Set up it as an equation, substitute your values, and then put it in your calculator, okay? You cannot. Okay, it is impossible to just straight away calculate these questions. You need to set it up in the way that it is. So, good luck with the questions today. Let me know if you have any questions on the group chat, and I will see you in the next video.